Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Breeze, Breezeway Productions' The Breeze. We bring you the latest independent film and film festival news, and we have a wonderful guest here with us today to talk about a book named But Have You Read the Book? We have the writer Kristen Lopez here with us today to talk about it. How are you,
Hi,
Kristen?
thank you for having me.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. So, the first question that I ask is tell me a little bit about But Have You Read the Book?
But Have You Read the Book is all about film adaptations, 52 of them. Before somebody asks, no, I did not intentionally plan a book a week for the entire year. I wish I was that smart. It was just a number that I liked. So I got to deconstruct 52 amazing books, amazing films, and kind of chart how different they are, why they're different, what works for film might not work for literature, some of the similarities, and ultimately why you should watch and read both, and how they can coexist.
Interesting. Were you getting tired of people that were leaving movies and saying, "Oh, the book was better than the film," and you're like, "Well, but have you read the book? Are the books always better than the film?" What drives someone to say that?
It's weird. I think part of it is superiority, wanting to say, like, well, I read the book. Books tend to have more of a cachet to them, like people who say they're readers, that's considered a bit more sophisticated than film, even though I think that's a very outdated notion. I think that you can have book snobs and you have film snobs. We've seen them exist in equal measure. But I think a lot of times, at least in my case, when I tell somebody that the book is better, it's because there is a fundamental element of the book that did not get translated that fuels character motivations or that changes the plot. And when certain things are missing from the book, I get very upset. I also tend to have that element of, people go to see something because they think it's cool, not because they have like a love for something. Like, case in point, I joked when I saw Cary Fukunaga's Jane Eyre back in 2011. I said that I
Mhm.
wanted to stand in front of the theater and ask people if they had read the book or could tell me the author's name in order to gain entry into the movie. And a lot of that's just because, I think Jane Eyre is one of those books that has been so heavily adapted that I think people even forget that it's got a literary source material. So a lot of
Yeah.
it for me is always about, just praising the story first and, all of the ways you can experience it, which isn't always on the screen.
Yeah, some of the best films of all time were books before they were films. So we can talk a little bit about the films that are that you talk about here. Children of Men. So which better, the book or the movie? Your
The
thoughts?
movie.
Yep. I think that movie is pretty epic, and we're kind of eerily entering into stuff that was done in that film in today's day and age. So, one of my favorite films that I've enjoyed over the course of times of watching movies, The Shining, also one of my top films. Book or movie?
Ooh, I saw the movie first, so I have a softer spot for the movie, but I think both of them are actually equal, in my opinion. I think they both offer something very different that makes them worthy of being on equal footing. They lose nothing by enjoying one or the other.
Yeah, I will always love Jack Nicholson's performance. It's still chilling to this day. Every time I watch, it's one of those movies I can watch a million times over. And then we can also talk about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Speaking of Nicholson, you reflect that into this book. So tell me, book or film, and what is in the book that we have here talks about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
I say the book, and that's only because in the film, it is Nicholson's film, even though Nicholson is not Randall P. McMurphy, who is described in the book as being like this redheaded lumberjack. Not Nicholson. That's not what Nicholson looks like. But more importantly, I think that what the book has is it centers the Bromden character as the person who is the head of the film. And I think that one of the big things that Ken Kesey said that he took umbrage with the film was that it became Nicholson's story, and that's not how he wrote it. He wanted to place an indigenous man at the center of this story, and they kind of Hollywoodized it, made the white guy the lead. And I get that. I think the movie is brilliant.
Mm.
But once you read the book and you see how POV changes so differently between the two, it's kind of hard to not feel like the movie is missing something fundamental.
Wow, that is a very in-depth analysis towards the book and the movie, the differences, the things that are the same. And good old Jack is just hypnotizing. I was very happy to see him recently at a Lakers game, courtside for the first time in a long time. So I'm happy to see that he's well and
Glad
at
that
least
he's
enjoying
still
the
with
game.
us. Yes.
Yes, as am I. But the book that we're talking about, what other films can readers look forward to reading about when you talk about the book versus the movie?
Yeah, so there's a lot. TCM and I both agreed we wanted a diversity of genres, we wanted diversity of eras. So I mean, it's a pretty broad range of time going from Frankenstein in 1931 all the way to Passing in 2021. And for me, I liked including stuff that maybe is a complete divergence. So like Clueless is actually a modernized version of Emma by Jane Austen, which is really great. Something like Passing is, brilliant story by Nella Larson. Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, one of my favorite Marilyn Monroe movies of all time, based on the book by Anita Loos. So I really did want to look at a lot of different stories that I love, stories that I had never read, films I had never seen before. People ask me what's something that you discovered in the process of writing this. I had never seen or read Blade Runner before.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, never saw it. Figured today was going to be the day. It was not the Philip K. Dick adaptation that I initially wanted, but unfortunately, I couldn't include the one I wanted because it was a short story. It was not a full book. But I got to experience Blade Runner for the first time and really enjoyed it and thought the book was fascinating. Jaws is based on a book. A lot of people do not know that. They assume that
Interesting.
Steven Spielberg just conjured that out of his head. It is based on a book. A lot of people say the book is trash. The book is interesting. It is very interesting to read. So yeah, I got to kind of go through some great literary history, some great film history to look at how adaptations work.
Nice. That's definitely some classics there. We can go into that conversation further, being like Blade Runner the book versus Blade Runner the original versus Blade Runner the remake. And as Hollywood continues to do its thing, we don't know how things are going to progress because they'll get so derived from the original source. Then everyone having different creator imagination and things that they want to add, it'll just go so far away from it. So we'll stick to the book. The question is, have you read the book? But have you read the book? Where can people go to find out more about But Have You Read the Book? Where can they go to purchase it?
It's all over. I know a lot of people try to say you should go to independent booksellers, which I agree. Independent booksellers are great, but also I would just love anybody to read it. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, wherever you get your books, there is also an ebook version, which is
Ooh.
great. So yeah, you can get it anywhere.
Nice. Well, we'll post those links below when we run this coverage. And then also, you were telling me before you have an event coming up for those that are interested to hear more about cinema and talk and history and movies, which I know people that are watching this usually do. So what event do you have coming up down the pipeline?
Yeah, so if you are in the Los Angeles area, the Great American Cinematheque is doing Bleak Week, which is about an entire week devoted to really depressing movies. And I am going to be introducing Leo McCarey's 1937 feature Make Way for Tomorrow, which is a beautiful, beautiful movie about an elderly couple who lose their house to foreclosure and have to make the brutal decision to not live together. It is utterly, utterly heartbreaking, but it is one of the most fantastic romantic movies ever made. And I get to introduce it. So if you are in LA June 4th at 1 p.m., you can come and sit and cry with me as we all watch Make Way for Tomorrow.
Well, those that like tear jerkers will run to Bleak Week, and introducing a film is always a super fun time, especially one of the classics. So if you're in the LA area, like Kristen was saying, definitely go and check it out. But first, read the book. And which book? But Have You Read the Book by Kristen Lopez. And Kristen, I want to thank you for spending the time with me today on The Breeze to talk about your newly released book. But have you read the book?
Thank you so much.